Lesson, I am going to discuss differences in the characteristics of three states of matter, that are solid, liquid, and gas. Solid. Solid have definite shape, size, and fixed volume and are rigid. While liquid have no fixed shape, they take the shape of the container in which they are kept, but they have fixed volume and they are fluid. Gases does not have fixed volume and shape. Let's understand these things with an example. As you all know, a pencil is a solid. You can see that it has a definite shape, size, and its volume always remains the same whether you put it in a glass, a bowl, or any type of container. Its volume does not shape and its shape change, and its shape also does not change. Now let us take 50 ml of water and pour it in a glass. What you observe? Well, water takes the shape of the glass. Now pour the same amount of water in a bowl. Now the water takes the shape of the bowl, but the volume of the water is still the 50 ml. So we can say that liquid have no fixed shape but have fixed volume, while gases does not have fixed volume and shape. It is spread in the container and its volume is equal to the volume of the container. Why solid? Why there is this difference? Well, I told you in my previous video that in solid particles are closely packed and are regularly arranged. They have high force of attraction between its particles. So solid have a definite shape, and while in liquid there is some space between the particles which is more than solid but less than gas. So they do not have a fixed shape but have a fixed volume. While gases have lots of space between its particles and the force of attraction is very weak in gaseous state. So it does not have any fixed volume. Its particles are randomly moving. Okay, now what is rigidity? Rigidity is inability to change is under force. So when you press this pencil from both the sides, you can see that its shape does not change, or it can break if you apply more amount of force, but it does not change its shape. So we can say that solid are rigid. Liquid lacks rigidity because it takes the shape of the container in which it is kept, while gaseous gas also are not rigid. Next, compare diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion is intermixing of particles of two different types of matter on its own. This process is called diffusion. Diffusion in solid is very slow and rarely happen. Why? In solid, in all matters, whether it is solid, liquid or gas, particles are always moving. But in solid, particles only move at its own axis. As there is very less space, so diffusion in solid is very slow. While in liquid, the diffusion is more than solid but less than gas. Diffusion in gas is fast because there is a lot of space between the particles and they are randomly moving. So gases diffuses into other gases are very high. Let us take the example of diffusion of solid into liquid. Example is salt water. As we can see in liquid, there is some space between the particles. So the particles of salt diffuses in the space between these particles of liquid. In gases there is lots of space. So diffusion of gases very fast. As you can see in kitchen, when there is something cooking, you can smell it from a long distance. Why? Because the aroma of the food diffuses into the air particles surrounding it and it reaches to your nostrils. So diffusion of gas into gases uh, is very high. And let us take an example of diffusion of gas into liquid. Well, as you all know, every living creature need to breathe. They need oxygen and CO2. So you can see in water bodies, in ocean or in river, there are lots of creatures and they are surviving. Why? Because the air from the surrounding, the gases from the air from the surrounding diffuses into that liquid like oxygen and CO2. So here we can see, if we can here we can compare the diffusion rate is like solid, it has the less diffusion rate, liquid, and then gas. Now let us compare the compressibility in these three states. What is compressibility? Well, compressibility of something is to reduce in size when you apply pressure. So as solid have very less space between the particles, so compressibility is really low in solid. While in liquid also have negligible compressibility and gas are highly compressible. Since gases are highly compressible, so we can apply pressure to the gases and put them in a very small containers. A large amount of gas can be kept in a small container. For example, CNG and LPG gases like which we can use in our kitchen. So we can compress the gases and put them in a container and they are used as a fuel.